Okay, in this design thinking method, there's 4 or 5 steps in the process. You have your research phase where you understand those people, those personas. You would look at different types of people, if they have different goals or the same goals, their challenges. We usually try to understand their pain points or what it is that they're really not liking or something that is a pain for them to do. And then we quantify some of these things. How many people does this affect? And what do we think is the actual root of the problem? And research involves a lot of talking to people, doing analysis of these interviews, and doing research methods like surveys, field studies, and observing people about what they do and how they encounter the problem and how they deal with the problem. Because a lot of the times that gives us a clue on how we could solve something or how not to solve for something. And then next comes the empathize part that is really defining those users and focusing in on what we're going to be solving for, defining those personas. What are those scenarios that you have heard from the research? And there's user testing that would come after you have a solution. You could do experience mapping or journey mapping. That's visually mapping out what people do about a problem step by step. That's putting us into the shoes of the user so we can begin to solve this problem. Then you have the third step, which is to create. That is the design and iteration phase. And based on everything that we've learned, we would look for models to solve the problems. User flows would be the steps that you would take to understand the user's journey. How can we modify that journey? How can we insert this new solution in that journey to make that pain point go away? And then wireframes are the actual UI delivered or shown to you. Wireframes are low fidelity sketches that has the information that the user needs to do this task. It's all about having all the elements there that's needed for users to make decisions. Other things that we would want to do would include mood board. This is more related to the visuals, how you can influence a user based on how you're presenting something. So you gather all different types of visuals and graphic elements. And this is the type of feeling that we want to emulate through our app. And then the mock-ups, they're higher fidelity or they're more thought out. So you take those wireframes that are just sketches and you put them in a layout that makes sense, that there's visual hierarchy. That means that you're guiding the user to do what they need to do. For example, if they go to a screen, there's a main task that they have to do. Like if it's a mail app, the main action would be compose a message, right? That's why if you look at Gmail, their compose button is very big on the top left. From there, the elements get smaller and smaller and often less colorful because the bigger something is and the more colorful something is, it draws your attention. So that's the hierarchy in how you take a user through and what they have to do. Style guides have to do with making the style consistent within an application. They use a certain font, certain styles, how they do their text and little elements. Are the buttons rounded? Are the buttons square? So that style guide makes sure that there's consistency in how things are displayed. That contributes to actually user perception of ease of use. Then you can test when you have wireframes, like a sketch of something, go talk to your family, your friends, and ask them what they think about it. Does this make sense? Because that would avoid spending too much time on something that's not going to work in real life. As soon as you have something ready, get some feedback on it. Don't be shy about that. To balance that feedback. Just because someone does say something about it doesn't mean you have to make that change. It's always useful to bounce your ideas off of more people. And if you feel strongly about not agreeing with somebody's opinion, um, you can go ahead and roll with what you have and test it with even more people and see what people think. When it comes to usability tests, and that applies to a user interface, that means that if you have a layout like a form, you would usability test that, make sure that people understand how to use the form, that the labels are clear to people, and that they know what to do next. Then you could make little adjustments to your UI based on feedback. Metrics are more when you have an application that's already implemented. When you have a live app, live website, we have what's called analytics, and it's tracking everything that we do. The pages that are being visited whenever you click on something, and those are the little metrics. They're what we call quantitative information that companies and designers and product people use so that they know what's working and what isn't working. That ties into the tracking of the usage of the app, how often they're going into the site and how often they're using that. Companies are tracking that so they can understand what parts of their product are working and which parts need help. When you have the design to a good state, you will go and work with developers in order to actually roll that out. Once it's developed, you would do similar things like usability tests and review the metrics and iterate again.